Shahed 136. The Shahed 136 is an Iranian-made loitering munition, first revealed publicly in 2021. Developed by the Iranian Ministry of Defense, it was designed and built entirely inside Iran as a low-cost precision strike weapon. The drone has a wingspan of around 2.5 meters, flies at low altitude to avoid radar detection, and carries an explosive warhead powerful enough to destroy vehicles, power stations, and military infrastructure. It requires no runway and is launched from a simple portable ramp using GPS navigation to reach its target. In 2022, Russia began using Iranian-supplied Shahed 136 drones in mass waves against Ukraine, targeting power grids and heating systems across major cities during winter. In 2019, Houthi forces used an earlier variant to strike Saudi Arabia's Abqaiq oil facility, temporarily cutting nearly half of the country's oil output. Each drone costs approximately $20,000 to produce, while the missiles used to intercept it cost up to $2 million each, creating a severe economic imbalance for defending nations. Military analysts now consider the Shahed 136 one of the most strategically disruptive weapons of modern warfare, forcing NATO nations and Gulf states to fundamentally rethink their air defense systems. Fattah Hypersonic Missile. The Fattah is Iran's first domestically developed hypersonic ballistic missile, unveiled by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in June 2023. Iran presented it as a generational leap in its missile program, claiming it could travel at speeds exceeding Mach 13 and maneuver mid-flight to evade interception. The missile is designed to reach targets at a range of approximately 1,400 kilometers. Its maneuvering re-entry vehicle allows it to change direction during descent, making it significantly harder to intercept than conventional ballistic missiles that follow predictable flight paths. Iran developed the Fattah in direct response to advanced missile defense systems deployed by the United States and Israel in the region, including the American THAAD system and Israel's Arrow 3 defense shield. The missile's primary strategic purpose is to threaten these systems directly. Western defense analysts have questioned some of Iran's performance claims, while acknowledging that even a partially capable hypersonic weapon poses serious challenges for existing regional air defense architecture. The unveiling of the Fattah marked a significant moment in Middle Eastern military history, signaling that Iran had moved beyond simple ballistic missiles into a new category of weapons that current defense technology struggles to reliably counter. Imad ballistic missile. The Imad is an Iranian long-range ballistic missile first tested in October 2015. Developed by the Aerospace Force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, it represented Iran's first domestically produced missile equipped with a precision-guided maneuverable warhead. The missile has a reported range of approximately 1,700 kilometers, placing cities including Tel Aviv, Riyadh, and several U.S. military bases across the Middle East within striking distance. Its guidance system allows it to land within a few hundred meters of an intended target, a major advancement over earlier Iranian missiles. Following its first test, the United Nations Security Council raised concerns that the Imad's development violated restrictions placed on Iran under Security Council Resolution 2231, which was linked to the 2015 nuclear agreement. Iran rejected those findings, stating its missile program was purely defensive. The Imad demonstrated that Iran had successfully transitioned from possession of large numbers of unguided rockets to a smaller force of accurate long-range strike weapons capable of hitting specific military or strategic targets. Its development fundamentally changed how neighboring governments and U.S. Central Command assessed the Iranian military threat, prompting accelerated investment in regional missile defense infrastructure across the Gulf states and Israel. Iran's underground missile facilities, referred to by Iranian military officials as missile cities, are a network of deep tunnels and hardened bunkers constructed beneath Iranian territory to store and launch ballistic missiles. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps began revealing portions of these facilities to the public in 2016. The tunnels are reported to be constructed at depths of up to 500 meters below ground, placing them beyond the reach of most conventional bunker-busting munitions currently in the U.S. and Israeli arsenals. Each facility is designed to house, maintain, and launch missiles directly from underground positions without surface. Exposure. Iranian state media has broadcast footage showing tunnel corridors stretching for kilometers, lined with rows of missiles on mobile launchers. Officials have claimed these facilities hold tens of thousands of missiles of varying ranges, though independent verification of these figures has not been possible. The strategic purpose of these cities is survivability. By dispersing missile stockpiles underground across multiple locations, Iran ensures that even a large-scale preemptive strike could not destroy its entire retaliatory capability in a single operation. Defense planners in the United States and Israel consider these underground complexes one of the most serious long-term challenges in the region, as neutralizing them would require sustained and precise military operations of significant scale. Hezbollah Rocket Arsenal. Hezbollah is a Lebanese militant organization and political movement founded in 1982 with direct support from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Over 4 decades, Iran has systematically supplied and upgraded Hezbollah's military capabilities, transforming it into one of the most heavily armed non-state actors in modern history. By the early 2020s, Western intelligence agencies estimated that Hezbollah had accumulated a stockpile of between 130,000 and 150,000 rockets and missiles of varying ranges stored across southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley. This arsenal includes short-range rockets, medium-range missiles capable of reaching Tel Aviv, and precision-guided munitions supplied directly from Iran. During the 2006 Lebanon War, Hezbollah fired approximately 4,000 rockets into northern Israel over 34 days, demonstrating its ability to sustain high-volume fire against Israeli civilian and military targets. The conflict exposed significant gaps in Israel's ability to defend against mass rocket attacks. Iran uses Hezbollah as a strategic deterrent, with the organization serving as a forward threat positioned directly on Israel's northern border. Iranian military doctrine considers Hezbollah's arsenal a second strike capability in the event of any large-scale Israeli or American military action against Iran. Israel's military has described the Hezbollah rocket threat as its most immediate and serious security challenge, dedicating substantial resources to its Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow defense systems, specifically in response to this arsenal. Iran's naval swarm tactics. Iran's naval swarm doctrine is a military strategy developed by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy for operations primarily in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. The strategy involves deploying large numbers of small, fast attack boats simultaneously against larger and more powerful naval vessels. The Persian Gulf is a narrow body of water averaging only 160 kilometers in width, creating conditions that significantly reduce the operational advantages of large warships. Iran recognized that in this environment, speed, numbers, and surprise could offset the technological superiority of the United States Navy. IRGC Navy vessels used in swarm operations are typically armed with rockets, machine guns, and anti-ship missiles. In exercises, Iran has practiced coordinating dozens of these vessels in simultaneous attacks from multiple directions, designed to overwhelm the point defense systems of even an aircraft carrier strike group. Incidents in the Persian Gulf have demonstrated this approach in practice. In January 2016, IRGC vessels detained 10 U.S. Navy sailors after their boats entered Iranian waters. In numerous other incidents, IRGC fast boats have conducted close proximity maneuvers around American warships, testing response times and rules of engagement. The U.S. Navy has developed updated countermeasures and rules of engagement specifically to address swarm threats in the Gulf, acknowledging that this unconventional approach presents genuine operational challenges in constrained maritime environments. Iran's cyber warfare program. Iran's state-sponsored cyber warfare program emerged as a significant force following the 2010 Stuxnet attack, in which the United States and Israel used malicious software to physically damage Iranian nuclear centrifuges. Iran responded by dramatically expanding its own offensive cyber capabilities through units operating under the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Ministry of Intelligence. In 2012, Iranian cyber operatives carried out the Shamoon attack against Saudi Aramco, the world's largest oil company. The attack destroyed the data on approximately 35,000 computers within hours, temporarily crippling the company's operations and representing one of the most destructive cyber attacks against a private corporation in history. Between 2011 and 2013, Iranian hackers conducted a sustained campaign of distributed denial-of-service attacks against major American financial institutions, including Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase, and the New York Stock Exchange, disrupting online banking services for millions of customers. In 2021, Iranian cyber actors targeted the water treatment infrastructure of several countries, raising concerns about potential attacks on civilian utilities. Researchers at major cybersecurity firms have identified multiple Iranian hacking groups, including APT-33 and APT-34, as persistent threats to energy, aviation, and government sectors globally. Iran's cyber program is now assessed by U.S. intelligence agencies as one of the 4 most capable state-sponsored hacking operations in the world, alongside Russia, China, and North Korea. Qaher 313 Stealth Fighter. The Qaher 313 is an Iranian domestically developed combat aircraft unveiled by President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in February 2013. The aircraft was presented as a fully functional stealth fighter capable of evading radar detection and conducting offensive air operations, representing a significant achievement for Iran's domestic defense industry. Iranian state television broadcast footage of the aircraft in flight and displayed it in a hangar alongside military officials. The government described it as a product of entirely domestic engineering and manufacturing, developed without access to foreign components due to decades of international sanctions. Independent aviation and defense analysts who examined publicly available photographs and footage raised significant questions about the aircraft's capabilities. Observers noted the cockpit appeared too small for a combat pilot, the canopy showed limited visibility, the air intakes appeared insufficient for high-performance flight, and the overall dimension suggested the aircraft could not carry meaningful weapons or fuel loads. Despite these assessments, Iran continued to assert the Qaher 313's operational validity. Whether the aircraft represents a genuine stealth capability or a demonstration of Iran's ambition and industrial progress remains a subject of debate among defense researchers. The Qaher 313 is significant regardless of its true capabilities because it reflects Iran's long-term strategy of developing domestic military technology to reduce dependence on foreign suppliers and signal technological self-sufficiency to both domestic audiences and regional adversaries. The axis of resistance. The axis of resistance is a term used by Iran to describe the network of allied militant organizations, political movements, and state actors it supports across the Middle East. The network was constructed deliberately over decades by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force as a strategic tool for projecting power beyond Iran's borders without direct military confrontation. The network's primary members include Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas, and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza and the West Bank, the Houthi movement in Yemen, and various Shia militia groups operating in Iraq and Syria. Each organization receives varying levels of funding, weapons, training, and strategic guidance from Tehran. Iran's strategic logic behind building this network is the concept of forward defense. Rather than waiting for conflict to reach Iranian territory, Iran positions allied forces in neighboring countries to create multiple simultaneous pressure points against adversaries, particularly Israel and the United States. The practical effectiveness of this strategy became clearly visible during the conflict in Gaza beginning in October 2023 when Hezbollah opened a second front against Israel from Lebanon. Houthi forces in Yemen began attacking international shipping in the Red Sea, and Iraqi militias conducted drone strikes against American bases. Simultaneously, Western and Israeli military planners described the axis of resistance as Iran's most sophisticated and durable strategic asset, one that cannot be neutralized through strikes on Iranian territory alone. Iran's nuclear program. Iran's nuclear program began in the 1950s with assistance from the United States under the Atoms for Peace initiative during the reign of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. After the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the program was initially paused, before being quietly resumed and significantly expanded during the 1980s and 1990s. The program became a major international crisis in 2002 when an Iranian dissident group publicly revealed the existence of previously undisclosed uranium enrichment facilities at Natanz and a heavy water production plant at Arak. These revelations triggered years of negotiations, sanctions, and confrontation between Iran and the international community. In 2015, Iran signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action with the United States, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Russia, and China. Under the agreement, Iran accepted limits on its enrichment activities in exchange for significant relief from economic sanctions. In 2018, the United States withdrew from the agreement under President Donald Trump and reimposed sweeping sanctions. Following the U.S. withdrawal, Iran progressively reduced its compliance with the agreement's restrictions. By 2023, international inspectors reported that Iran had enriched uranium to 84% purity, just below the 90% threshold considered weapons grade, raising serious concerns about the program's ultimate direction. The International Atomic Energy Agency has assessed that Iran now possesses sufficient enriched uranium that, if further processed, could theoretically be used to produce multiple nuclear devices, making its program one of the most closely monitored and consequential security issues in the world. Houthi anti-ship missiles. The Houthi movement, formerly known as Ansar Allah, is a Yemeni armed organization that took control of the capital Sana'a in 2014 and has been engaged in a civil war against the internationally recognized Yemeni government since that time. Iran has provided the Houthis with weapons, technical training, and strategic support throughout the conflict. Beginning in November 2023, following the outbreak of conflict in Gaza, the Houthis began conducting missile and drone attacks against commercial shipping vessels in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. The attacks were declared by Houthi leadership as acts of solidarity with Palestinians and pressure on Israel and its allies. The weapons used in these attacks include Iranian-supplied anti-ship ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drone boats. The anti-ship ballistic missile is particularly significant because it represents a capability previously held only by major military powers, requiring sophisticated guidance systems to hit a moving vessel at sea. The Red Sea is one of the world's most critical maritime corridors, through which approximately 15% of global trade passes annually, including significant volumes of oil, consumer goods, and grain. The Houthi attacks forced dozens of major shipping companies to reroute vessels around the Cape of Good Hope in southern Africa, adding up to 2 weeks of additional transit time per journey. The United States and United Kingdom launched retaliatory strikes against Houthi positions in Yemen beginning in January 2024. But the attacks continued, demonstrating the difficulty of suppressing a dispersed, Iranian-supplied missile force through airstrikes alone. IRGC Quds Force. The Quds Force is a specialized division of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, responsible for extraterritorial operations, foreign intelligence, and the training and support of allied armed groups beyond Iran's borders. It was established following the 1979 Islamic Revolution and expanded significantly during the 1980s Iran-Iraq War. The Quds Force operates across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Gaza, and Afghanistan, maintaining relationships with dozens of armed organizations, political movements, and intelligence networks. It functions as the primary operational link between the Iranian government and all members of the Axis of Resistance, coordinating weapons transfers, financial support, and strategic planning. Under the command of Major General Qasem Soleimani, who led the Quds Force from 1998 until his death in January 2020, the organization significantly expanded its regional influence. Soleimani personally coordinated military operations in Syria that helped preserve Bashar al-Assad's government during the Syrian civil war, and directed Iraqi militia operations against American forces in Iraq. On January 3, 2020, Soleimani was killed in a U.S. drone strike at Baghdad International Airport in Iraq, ordered by President Donald Trump. His death was described by American officials as a response to his role in planning imminent attacks against U.S. personnel in the region. The Quds Force continued operations following Soleimani's death under his successor, Brigadier General Esmail Khani, demonstrating the organization's institutional depth and its central role in Iranian foreign and military policy. Iran's April 2024 attack on Israel. On the night of April 13th and into the early hours of April 14th, 2024, Iran launched its first ever direct military attack against Israeli territory from Iranian soil. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps fired a combined total of approximately 300 ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and one-way attack drones toward Israel in a single coordinated operation. The attack was announced publicly by Iranian officials as a direct retaliation for an Israeli airstrike on April 1st, 2024, which destroyed the Iranian consular building in Damascus, Syria, killing 7 IRGC officers, including 2 senior generals. Israel, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and Jordan collaborated to intercept the incoming projectiles. Israeli Air Force jets, U.S. Navy destroyers, and ground-based defense systems, including the Arrow 3 and David's Sling, worked together across several hours to intercept the majority of the weapons before they reached Israeli territory. Israeli officials stated that approximately 99% of the launched weapons were successfully intercepted. Minor damage, Jane was reported at an Israeli airbase in the Negev desert, and a 7-year-old Bedouin girl in southern Israel sustained serious injuries from falling debris. There were no Israeli military fatalities directly attributed to the attack. The April 2024 attack was historically significant, as it marked the first time Iran had directly struck Israel from its own territory in the two countries' decades-long conflict, crossing a threshold that fundamentally altered the nature of their confrontation and prompted emergency sessions of the United Nations Security Council. EMP weapons capability. An electromagnetic pulse, commonly referred to as an EMP, is a burst of electromagnetic energy capable of disabling or permanently destroying electronic equipment across a wide geographic area. EMPs can be generated by nuclear detonations at high altitude or by specialized non-nuclear devices designed specifically for this purpose. Iran's potential development of EMP capabilities has been a subject of concern among American and Israeli defense analysts for over a decade. Congressional reports published in the United States, including assessments by the EMP Commission, identified Iran as a nation that had studied EMP effects and incorporated related concepts into its military doctrine and training exercises. The strategic concern surrounding an EMP attack is its potential to simultaneously disable power grids, communications networks, transportation systems, and military electronics across an entire country or region without causing immediate casualties. Recovery from a large-scale EMP event affecting civilian infrastructure could take months or years. Iran has conducted tests of missile detonations at high altitudes, which some analysts interpreted as consistent with EMP delivery research, though Iran has not publicly acknowledged any dedicated EMP weapons program. The threat is taken seriously enough that the United States, Israel, and several European nations have invested in hardening critical infrastructure components against EMP effects, including military communication systems, power grid components, and hospital equipment in recent years. Stuxnet blowback turned Iran into a cyber superpower. Stuxnet was a malicious computer worm discovered in 2010 that had been covertly deployed against Iran's uranium enrichment facility at Natanz. Later investigations and reporting by security researchers and journalists attributed the weapon to a joint operation between the United States National Security Agency and Israeli Military Intelligence Unit 8200, operating under the codename Olympic Games. The worm was engineered to target the specific industrial control systems operating Iran's uranium centrifuges, causing them to spin at incorrect speeds while reporting normal readings to operators. Between 2009 and 2010, approximately 1,000 centrifuges at Natanz were physically destroyed as a result, temporarily setting back Iran's enrichment program by an estimated 1 to 2 years. When Stuxnet was publicly identified and its origins became known, it represented a turning point in Iran's approach to military technology. Iranian leadership recognized that the country was deeply vulnerable to cyber attacks while possessing virtually no offensive capability in return. The government responded with a major state investment in cyber warfare infrastructure. Within 2 years of the Stuxnet discovery, Iran had built operational cyber units capable of conducting significant offensive operations. The 2012 Shamoon attack on Saudi Aramco, which destroyed data on 35,000 computers, demonstrated that Iran had rapidly developed genuine offensive cyber capabilities. The Stuxnet operation is now studied in military and cybersecurity institutions globally as the moment that demonstrated cyber weapons could cause physical destruction, and as the event that directly motivated Iran to become one of the world's most active state sponsors of offensive cyber operations.